AQ's Blog and Grill.
Welcome to AQ's Blog and Grill. We are really lucky today to have a guest of Maurice Allin's caliber. Maurice is the Vice President of Strategic Insight at Quarry Integrated Communications. And we're going to talk about insight and how can it be used strategically. So, welcome, Maurice.
Nice to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, as I just said. So, the title, the role, is about strategic insight. Now, can you help us understand what does that mean in terms of what you do and how you contribute to brand building?
So I've been trying to figure that out for about 16 years myself. It's a really good question. Insight is about ultimately making a difference, and strategic insight is about making a difference at a strategic level. So what we're really trying to do here, or what I see as my job, is not to make a direct impact on every little decision that the creative team makes or the web development team makes, but to help guide the relationship between the desired customer or consumer for a brand and the development of that brand itself. So really, insight in this case is all about understanding the interaction between the brand and the customer in a way that's material to making it actionable to improve that relationship.
Okay, great. So have you found that the clients of today, have they moved forward into not thinking about their brands as products and thinking more about the customer and the relationship with the brand?
Great question. There are clients who have moved forward by great leaps and bounds in that area, meaning that they are much more in tune with the idea of customer and the customer's experience. We still encounter lots of companies, lots of brands, which are really products in disguise. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing I find about that is that where I've seen the greatest gains made has actually been in the B2B world. Okay. Traditionally, B2B brands have been product first and a little bit of brand after the fact. Mm-hmm. And what we see is the really good B2B marketers are really understanding that there is a relationship between their product and the customer that transcends the technical capabilities of the product and reaches into that larger experience. And those are both folks that we really like working with.
This buyer experience journey, how does it get mapped out? And is that where you're using the strategic insights that you're gathering?
I'd say we're using the buyer experience journey as kind of the fulcrum for understanding or for gaining insight.
Okay.
When we look at the B2B part, I think there was originally a conceptualization that the only thing that mattered was the set of specs that I present to my prospective customer, so that, you know, at that moment of truth when they choose a product, my specs line up with what they want. What we've learned is that most of the moments of truth that really count, particularly in a B2B world, happen after the purchase. So the buyer journey is not just how I think about my relationship or potential relationship to a brand. It's not just about how I purchase that product. It's much more about how I live with that product after I've made that purchase. Mm-hmm. And that's really the brand experience part that ultimately is where the brand story meets the customer story.
Okay. So brand story, customer story. Let's delve a little bit into that.
So there's some tension there. There's tension between what we would like the brand to mean and what the brand actually is in terms of the experiential or how people experience it in real life. Okay. A great area for insight is to understand how what your brand idea is and what the gaps are between the real experience and that.
Yeah, this term is going around quite a bit right now. So we have brand ethnography and we have customer anthropology.
Brand ethnography is about us understanding the way our customers interact with our brand. Customer anthropology is about understanding their motivations and what they want to be in the absence of our brand. Okay? Once we understand that, we can greater understand the potential interaction that our brands can have. It's kind of like, there's the old Henry Ford quote that said, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. If we look at the world only through the brand ethnography, then we may miss the real opportunity for the brand, because the real opportunity happens in the customer's mind only. If we try and map that in too much of a linear fashion, we're probably going to miss some opportunities for brand growth and brand expression.
You kind of move from the marketing research and consulting area into strategic customer insight, strategic brand insight.
Right.
So have you then given up quant altogether and it's all about qualitative now?
So again, great question. The process of qualitative research allowed you to get to root cause more effectively. You can continually probe on the whys. Why did you feel that way? How did you do that? Why did it matter? Those kinds of questions. The problem is that the qualitative research doesn't always create the business case that you need in order to make something actionable. Right. And in that case, we need the quantification. We need to know how many people actually feel that way. Will they spend enough money for us to invest in this kind of a program? And that led me to the quantification side. So you go to the qualitative to explain the why, and you go to the quant to explain the how much. Everybody's talking about big data. Big data is not going to answer any questions in our world. It will for some people in a very tactical role. What it will do, though, is help us to decide where the best qualitative questions are to be asked. Okay. Because we're going to see contradictions. We're going to see behaviors that don't line up with our hypotheses, with what we think are the established paradigms. And when we see those contradictions, then there's a great opportunity for saying, there's something going on with this customer that we just don't understand yet. Right. We need to dig a little deeper here.
So there's some tension that's developing.
Tension's a great word, yeah.
So how do we then get to understand what the tension's about and then leverage it to help build the brand?
There's the tension between what our idea of the brand is, the brand essence, and what the experience is in the field. And that raises two questions. Is it that our brand can never be what we want it to be, or is there some fault in the experiences that we're creating that can be improved? Okay? Both of those, from a research standpoint, in order to find that insight, you can use both qualitative and quantitative tools. Second form of insight is the insight into what we as human beings are, our tensions between who we want to be and how we can express that meaning around. Right. The third tension then is the tension between the self-story and how I can make my self-story perfect and the actual role of your brand experience in helping me create that. And that's the area that's most interesting. Right. And frankly, it's the one where I don't know yet how we can apply quantitative tools on that. For some reasons that we're just learning about now through the application of neuroscience. But those are almost essentially at this stage qualitative understandings.
How is neuroscience and its advancement going to affect or innovate within the insight and the consumer?
What we've learned about neuroscience is that it's not so much helping us as in it's preventing us from making as many mistakes as we did before. And what that really boils down to is we've learned two really important things from neuroscience. One is people are much, much poorer at explaining why they do things than we ever thought. I think that we also have learned a great thing from neurology, and that is people are much better liars than they ever thought they were. We were much more concerned with the lies that people told us in market research. Today, we're much more concerned with the lies people tell themselves. Yeah.
If you were going into the branding business these days, what advice would you give to young people?
I think the first thing that you have to learn in order to be a good brander is you have to learn a little bit about yourself. We have to recognize that people find it very difficult to express their expectations, their satisfaction with the interactions that they have with the brand. In a more formal sense, however, I think that you are going to see two types of people become much more prevalent within the branding world in the future. I read an article just yesterday that said that in the very near future, CMOs are going to control more budget, more investment in IT assets than do CIOs within a corporation. Wow. This is about big data, it's about social media, it's about all of those things that are happening on the web. And your ability to understand that's going to be hugely important. The area that I'm drawn to a little bit more is that of anthropology. I think that the concept of brand and product is at its roots an anthropological construct. And then in order to be a good brander, we're going to have to be much more practiced and proficient in that understanding of anthropology.
Give me an example, if you could, of how that expertise or insight into anthropology can be leveraged to build a brand.
Yeah, so a brand is it's an act of making meaning. And making meaning is a cultural anthropological construct. Okay. It's the idea that as I experience something, whether that is is a brand in the conventional way we think about it, a can of Coke, a Chevy Impala, whatever. That as we create meaning around this, it is a primarily cultural phenomenon. The idea of a brand is not just an expression, a shortcut to communicating what my features and attributes are.
Right.
It's a shortcut to communicating what the meaning of this experience is. And that meaning changes across culture.
Right.
Even though we have a unique brand and we have a brand essence and, and an idea of some messaging that we as advertisers want to get out, the way that brand constructs meaning is a cultural phenomenon, and it might be different for downtown hipsters than it is for middle-aged farmers in Midwestern USA.
Good. Now, when you and I first started talking about customer insight and customer behavior, consumer behavior, the account planning model was emerging. Yeah. It came from the UK. Chiat Day, I think, was the first firm in the US to kind of grab hold of it. So I guess it must be thriving now, is it?
I was going to say, I only wish it could be so. If we think about the original role of the account planning, it was kind of twofold. First step was to bring the voice of the customer into the creative development process, right. And then more recently to be almost a steward of that relationship between the brand and the customer. And that's where things kind of started to fall off a little bit because I think there's some hubris on the part of many account planners, certainly not the good ones, but the ones who are just good enough to be bad. And that is that if I know everything about the customer, by definition, I should know everything about the brand, because the brand is nothing but a reflection of the customer. And I think, if we think about what I was talking about a few minutes ago, there is a brand ideal, a brand essence, and an experience. And in today's world, the challenge of making your brand idea come true in the multi-channel, multimedia, multi-everything universe, right, is an area that deserves its own attention.
And has this evolution then been a good thing?
It's been a necessary thing, and it's been a good thing. It's been a necessary thing because I don't think any of us have big enough brains that we can do the whole thing anymore. Right. It's been a good thing because, frankly, the way the world has evolved, particularly the digital universe, it has given us an avenue to explore customer behavior, the customer story in a way that has actually opened up so much incredible territory for us to explore. It's no longer about the voice of the customer, because the customer can't always provide us with his voice or her voice of what they want. It's about going beyond what the customer is capable of telling us and really discovering what they really want. And that's where we get to insight. If you simply listen to what the customer wants, that's not an insight. That's just taking notes.
Right. Isn't that a pretty risky exercise to make the leap from, okay, this is what they told us, to this is what we think the meaning is?
Yeah. So two points. Capitalism rewards risk. So it's about hedging your bets. Okay. And I guess the thing I would say about that more than anything else is that a customer insight that is actionable and can drive your brand forward is a momentary leap of faith. What you have to do then is create a hypothesis around that and subject that hypothesis to a little bit more scrutiny.
Right.
And we do have the tools and techniques. We have the qualitative research techniques, which are really about the validity of the idea and saying, is this true? Is this, did we misread that ethnography? Did we hear what was going on?
Right.
But then there's also, for every bit of validity, we also have to kind of quantify that validity and say, is it going on in enough cases?
So, sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you this question. 5 years from now, where's this thing going to be?
So I think the biggest challenge that we have as marketers is, if you were to put together the advances we're seeing in neurobiology, neuromarketing, the advances in big data and analytics, and to a small extent our increased capability to do good ethnographic research, we have a capability to actually overrun or get beyond our clients and our brands. I think the biggest challenge is actually helping our clients to understand how different their world could be. What we're seeing with clients that we're working with today is that our insights, we're actually having clients say, bring us back something a little less insightful, because I can't change my organization quick enough to take advantage of this. And God forbid one of my competitors does that instead, but we're going as fast as we can.
Right.
So I actually think we have to think about the information structures that we create in order to transmit that insight into our client organizations.
Yeah.
So it's not about coming in with a big report anymore. It's coming in with a very simple insight construct that people can go, oh, now I get it.
Right.
Now I can do something about that.
Right. Maurice, it's been great chatting to you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Has it really been fun?
Yeah, actually it has.
It really has been fun. How about that? You just wouldn't think that, would you? Well, thanks for joining us on AQ's Blog and Grill today. Maurice Allin, VP Strategic Insight for Quarry Integrated Communications. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
AQ's Blog and Grill.